This is episode 255 of Jumblethink.
T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Jumblethink, where we interview amazing entrepreneurs about their journey of turning dreams and ideas into reality. Along the way, we're going to share some tips on how you can turn your own dreams and ideas into reality too. Our guest on today's show is Dani Zoldan. More about Dani in a moment. We also have a guest appearance by Leah Forrester. Super fun show lined up. Whether you're a new listener or a longtime fan, right now is the perfect time to head on over to your favorite app to listen to podcasts and subscribe to the Jumblethink podcast. For Apple Podcasts, even easier, jumblethink.com/iTunes. Or for Spotify, jumblethink.com/Spotify. Take you right to the app, right to where you can subscribe to our show. Let's not waste any time. Let's jump into today's conversation with Dani Zoldan. Hey there, welcome to Jumblethink. My name is Michael Woodward. I am your host. We got a killer show lined up for you today. Today's show is being presented by our friends over at Skillshare. They are your source for online learning. They have great courses all about entrepreneurship, creativity, and much more. Head on over to Skillshare.com/Jumblethink to get 2 months free. Skillshare.com/Jumblethink. I think you're going to love their service, so go check them out. We also want to thank our friends over at Penji. Penji offers unlimited graphic design at a low monthly rate. Super cool company. You can get 15% off your first month by being our listener. How do you do it? Head on over to Penji, PENJI.com. Use the code JUMBLE, JUMBLE, to get 15% off your first month. All right, so I told you we have a great show lined up for you today, and we really do. Our guest, his name is Dani Zoldan. I met Dani being a part of Podcast Row. He is a true entrepreneur through and through. Let's just look at his stats here. He started his first business, which was an online music company at age 19. At 24, he started a telecom company. He sold that in 2016. He purchased Stand Up New York, which is a killer comedy club in New York City, in 2008. In 2013, he started Stand Up New York Labs, which is a podcast network. And then in 2017, he started Skittish Media, which is creative content studio and digital ad agency. 2018, he started Stand Up New York Education. 2018, he started LaughPass, the first comedy club membership program. It's currently accepted at over 50 clubs in the U.S. And then in 2019, he launched Podcast Row. That's how I met him. Their mission is to connect entrepreneurs with podcasters to help them share their story. He lives in New York City. Like I said, he owns Stand Up New York. They're doing crazy cool stuff. Amazing comedy club on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. This is a crazy episode. It is filled with unexpected turns and twists. We have Leah Forrester jumping in. She's a up-and-coming killer comedian. She even has a Netflix special coming out in October. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about comedy. We're going to talk about podcasting. We're going to talk about creating community. We're going to talk about a lot of crazy stuff. It is a super fun episode. So let's jump into this conversation we had with today's guest, Dani Zoldan. Hey, Dani, thanks so much for being on with us today.
Thanks for having me.
I am super excited to have you on. Got to meet you at Podcast Row. You put on Podcast Row back in early June. We're gearing up for another one, July 29th. That's going to be fun. Only wish is that we could be doing this in person, but I'm traveling. You're back in New York. I'm in, where am I? Spearfish, South Dakota right now. So that's just not possible. And super excited to have you on the show, though.
I appreciate you having me on. And we've been talking about it for some time. And yeah, if we would have recorded here, we have studios right above Stand Up New York. We could have had some beers at the table, and it would have been nice.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely do another episode again. Do something really fun. You use the term in your description of multi-preneur. I think that's the first time I've seen that. I love that. I think it's so cool. Tell us about being a multi-preneur.
I feel like I've seen the term like serial entrepreneur before, and I've used that in the past in my bio. I don't know. I get bored of things pretty quickly, and I'm always looking to change things up. So I don't know if I thought of that or if I saw that word somewhere, but I thought it was a cool word, and I used it. It's in my Instagram bio.
I love that term because you hear serial entrepreneur. And let's be honest, most entrepreneurs who say that typically aren't for some reason, but you're definitely the personification of multi-preneur. Tell us all the things you're working on right now.
Here it's like multi-personality also. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
Can I throw a little monkey wrench into this interview?
Yeah. Love it.
So I'm sitting above Stand Up New York Comedy Club. It's on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, 78th and Broadway, which you've been to.
Yeah.
And just to paint you a picture, right above the club, we have our offices and we have 2 podcast studios. And we have a sold out show tonight. Our showroom is 120 people, and sitting next to me is a comic, the headliner on tonight's show. And her name is Amy Schumer. No, I'm kidding.
You've had Amy on, though, your show.
We've had Amy, yes, in the club. But for real, sitting next to me is Leah Forster.
Hello.
This interview so far is fascinating. I'm blown away.
Nice. Well, I know that I've seen you and heard your stuff.
Right, has gone up in the past year.
Yeah, I mean, maybe on the cover of the Daily News or CBS or NBC, and I do have a Netflix special coming out in October, so that's pretty dope.
And you heard it first here.
Nice. What's it called? What are you calling it?
You just got the exclusive about Leia's new comedy special on Netflix.
Just decided what I'm calling it today.
Can you announce it?
No, I'm calling it Hello, Hello.
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's like my tagline.
That's super cool.
It is.
Yeah. So Netflix.
Have you ever had a comic jump on your podcast?
I've had a comic on the show, but I've never had one jump into an interview, which I think is super fun and cool.
Danny's lazy, and he doesn't want to talk, and he's tired of talking about himself. So he's like, you know what, Leah? You do this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Picking up what you putting down, Danny.
Super cool. So when does that come out?
Leia,
in October.
In October. Wow, right around the corner.
It's really exciting.
You should be on, and we should talk about that show.
Definitely.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's basically a little different than the typical like Netflix special because it's like weaving in pieces of my life story. So it flashes back and forth between the world that I grew up in and the world that I'm in now. I used to be an ultra-Orthodox comedian in the religious community. Like I was raised ultra-Hasidic.
Yeah.
I was in an arranged marriage. So I sort of used to only perform for women, very censored material. And then like I sort of was reborn again into the mainstream comedy world.
Yeah.
So it flashes back constantly between then and now. It's kind of cool.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And this time around, I get to say the F word sometimes.
And I'm just going to go home and Leia stole my sunshine.
Well, one thing I have noticed is like anytime I'm talking to Dani, he doesn't like talking about himself. You're a pretty humble guy.
Yeah, I don't know. I just do my thing. I like spending my time on just building cool stuff, that I'm proud of.
And you do build a lot of stuff.
I guess I try to detach it from, I don't know if I project it that way, but I try to detach it from me, like my personality. Like I really want to be involved with brands that speak for itself. So like Laugh Pass or Stand Up New York. I really want to be, I want people to know those brands and speak highly of it.
Yeah. And I love that about what you're building is that you've been doing entrepreneurship, the journey of being an entrepreneur since you were like 19.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be some crazy stories about the trials of entrepreneurship in there, but you continue to go back to doing it when I think it's easy in entrepreneurship to say, hey, I'm out, not doing this anymore. But you've consistently done this. You've built Stand Up New York. When it was not doing so well, you helped rebrand that and rebuild it. You launched Laugh Pass with other stand-up comedy clubs. You've launched Podcast Row, which is one of the newest things. You have Skittish Media. You have Dark Horse Sessions, which is your podcast. So you keep coming to the table of entrepreneurship. Why? Why would you do that? Entrepreneurship's hard. Why do you keep coming back to it?
I think it's all I know. Like I've never really had a job. I dropped out of NYU to start an online music company. I just know the hustle. My life has been a constant hustle. since 19. And I just like creating things. Like, I don't know. It's really like all I know.
Wow.
Yeah. So if I see something cool, I just move fast and I work on it.
Yeah.
I really don't know any other way.
Yeah. Which is really cool.
That makes sense.
Your first two companies were Eargasmic, which was the music platform.
Not a site.
What's up? No, no, not at all.
Not to be confused with. No.
There's probably a long list of those.
As
sure.
my mother would say, feh. Do you know what that means?
No, what is that?
Let me break it down for you. It's FEH. It's like ew, but for Hasidic people, they say feh. You know?
I didn't know that. I just learned something new.
Wow.
Feh?
You're welcome.
Feh means ew.
Feh. You've been schooled.
Feh.
Since we're going like on a crazy little detour here, the one fact that I know that interests me about the Jewish culture in New York City, I mean, there's a lot that interests me, but there's one that I actually know that sounds cool and most people don't, is that there are not invisible, but there are lines running from telephone poles that are all about the Sabbath and how far you can travel and the places you can be in all throughout the city. So it's like, this is your safe zone. Don't go past this or it becomes, work or something like that.
It's called an Eruv, ERUV. Yeah, wow. It's a front for us to spy on people.
You know, we Jews all about those boundaries, you know what I'm saying?
Well, people always want to break out of their boundaries, and here you guys are putting it up and keeping yourselves boxed in.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to explain that. It's not in like it's in certain Jewish communities.
Yeah.
I mean, does Manhattan have one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Manhattan has one. And when you're in that boundary on the Sabbath, like you're not supposed to carry an umbrella. What else besides? Is it just carrying?
It is, and it's like a certain amount of houses. Like there would be a certain amount of meters until there's another house, and so that string it has been measured by like rabbis, and it's like kind of they gave their stamp of approval on what areas and what boundaries you can stay in and carry.
But is it only carrying? Is there anything else besides carrying?
Carrying. That's pretty much what it is.
Okay.
I didn't know that part, which is kind of crazy.
I'll just say, holy when you say it like that, I'm like, we grew up in a very twisted culture.
Yeah, but you know what the point of the Arab of not carrying?
Yes, I think it's a long. You're not interested, I promise.
Okay, we'll skip that.
All right. So that's my one fact about Judaism in New York City that I know. Past that, I know that you see what look like Jewish Amish people.
Oh, that's Leah. That's how Leah.
Dad. That's my dad.
That's how Leah was.
Yeah.
Like I came home from work one day. The house smelled really good. I said, Mom, what's happening tonight? She said, there's going to be an engagement party. I'm like, oh my God, who's getting engaged? She's like, you are. I was like, oh my God, what's his name? She's like, stop asking so many questions. Go get ready.
How'd that end up?
Wah, wah.
In divorce.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wow.
Thanks for bringing it up, Michael.
Yeah. My goal to bring up the pain in people every time I talk to them.
Ever. But Leah actually grew up in that type of sect that you were talking about. They sort of look like Amish. But
yeah.
Now she's wearing like track pants and a t-shirt and she looks tattooed and still she doesn't look like that anymore.
Wow. Crazy.
So it's called, the Hebrew word is derech. It means like you go, it's like path. So she went off the derech, we say.
Wow.
She went off the religious path.
Okay, so crazy bunny trail there. Let's jump back in to where we're at.
Well, we can go back on topic.
Yes. So we've talked about a lot of stuff here. I'm going to wrap up this first segment by asking 3 questions. First one is, how are you finding purpose in what you do?
How am I finding purpose in what I do? It's really just finding an emotional connection with who I work with, whether it's an employee or a customer. I think that's where I found my purpose, just making making that emotional connection instead of just like making a sale. And I mean, I used to be in the telecom business, and we used to sell like wholesale long distance minutes. And we used to sell that to phone companies. And it was the worst. Like, there's no way you can connect with someone over selling them a minute to Brazil.
Wow.
So luckily, I'm in a business where it's very easy to connect to people. Like, I'm in the comedy world, and also Podcast Row, and our podcast network. So like, we're always trying to connect with people emotionally, and every business I'm in is like that.
So you're in this place where you are constantly launching new things. You're evolving what you're doing. But what's the big challenge that you're currently working to overcome in what you do?
I mean, there's so many. Prioritizing is a huge challenge. I have so much going on, and sometimes I get in the bad habit of just like responding to my emails or taking care of tasks just to get that instant gratification of getting something done. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If I could prioritize, that'll, I think that'll help big time. Also planning. Like, I'm not a great planner. So like, we're setting goals, and like, where does the club, where do we want to be in 6 months? Where does LaughPass want to be in 6 months or a year? How many members do we want? How many clubs do we want in the LaughPass network? I mean, every business has its own challenges. The club, like, we have shows every night. We have 15 shows a week. So filling the seats every night is always a challenge. And managing employees, like, in order to get just the most out of them. There's really too much to list.
Yes.
And all day, like, listing off my problems.
Yeah. It seems that you are constantly looking to the next thing. You're looking for the future. So what's the big goal that you have, the next big thing that you want to do?
You know what? Some people have in mind that they want to sell their business, right? Like, they're already thinking that's an exit, like, before like they even have a business plan. I don't really think that way. Like, I really just want to run my businesses like just as efficiently as possible and always trying to improve it. And there's really not a business I'm involved with now that I would say like, oh, I can't, I want to grow it this much and then I want to sell it. Like, I'm happy just running these businesses the way it is and just growing and always trying to make it better. So, and then if something comes up, another venture, like, I'm happy to jump in and ride that. So,
yeah.
Everything I'm working on, I have a long-term mentality. So, and again, I think I'm operating like 6 businesses now. So, I mean, that's plenty to keep me busy.
Yeah.
Like, every day, it's like, it's just something else. And I could spend the rest of my life just improving these 6 businesses even.
And yet you're adding more things, like Podcast Row is new and that kind of thing. So you are constantly looking at the potential of what you could do, whether it's in existing businesses or even growing what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to take a break right here, and we will be back with Dani Zoldan and Leah Forrester. Today's Jumble Think episode is brought to you by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of amazing classes covering dozens of creative and entrepreneurial skills. You can take classes in everything from photography and creative writing to design, productivity, so much more. So whether you're returning to a long-time passion project, challenging yourself to get outside of your comfort zone, or simply exploring something new, Skillshare has classes for you. I know one of the classes I'm looking forward to is Storytelling for Leaders, How to Craft Stories That Matter. As a podcaster, I find learning and continuing to learn so powerful, and Skillshare allows me to learn more about topics that matter to me. So join the millions of students already learning on Skillshare today with a special offer just for my listeners. Get 2 months free. That's right. Skillshare is offering Jumble Think listeners 2 months of unlimited access to thousands of classes for free. To sign up, go to Skillshare.com/JumbleThink. Again, go to Skillshare.com/JumbleThink to start your 2 months now. That's Skillshare.com/JumbleThink. We also want to thank our friends over at Penji. Penji helps startups, agencies, small businesses, and marketing teams just like yours achieve more with unlimited graphic design support at one flat monthly rate. Their easy-to-use online platform pairs you with a professional designer and lets you create as many design projects as you want. Think of it as your monthly subscription to top-notch design. No contracts, no hourly billing, just fast, simple, and affordable graphic design for all of your needs. Use the code JUMBLE, JUMBLE, when you visit Penji, PENJI.com to get 15% off your first month. Again, that's code JUMBLE when you visit Penji.com, and you'll get 15% off your first month. Now let's jump back into today's conversation with Dani Zoldan. We are back with Dani Zoldan. All right.
Instagram, Dani Zoldan, DANIZOLDAN. Facebook, Twitter. Twitter, it's at DZoldan. Even email, DANI@standupny.com. I'm very accessible, and people can contact me. They can email me. They can Facebook me. They can DM me on Instagram. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to advertise my cell number. Yeah, but I love when people contact me. And I try to be just responsive as possible. And yeah, my doors are always open. Cool. And of course, Stand Up New York. You can find me here. I mean, maybe contact me before you come. Yeah, if anyone ever wants to check out the club, we'd love to have everyone here, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'll buy them a drink.
It is a super fun club. I've been to a couple comedy clubs. Yours is not in a part of Manhattan that I typically visit quite often, so it was a new experience getting up there and seeing what you were doing. Super excited to get back there in July. Let's talk about Podcast Row for a second and talk about what you're doing with that, because it's a super fun event. I've been involved with a lot of podcast events. Yours was probably... I won't say probably. I will say it was the most fun that I've had at a podcast event. So tell us a little bit about Podcast Row, what it is and where you're going with it.
So I had the idea a few months ago where we have this amazing venue and platform where daily we have interesting people coming through our doors besides comics and comedy writers and podcasters and interesting podcast guests. I mean, daily, besides Leah Forster, who's back on the couch right next to me.
Hey. Welcome back.
It's just me and Dani,
She's back with a new hairdo.
Sweet.
Yeah, like we had Thursday, James Altucher was here and interviewed Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Which I saw the pictures and I was like, he didn't know who he's getting interviewed by. He was way overdressed for that experience.
I know, but he wasn't wearing dress socks. I saw the picture. He's wearing a nice gray suit with no socks. He came into our studio with 2 duffel bags, and he came alone, no assistants or anything.
Oh wow!
And yeah, I was helping him on his way out, and he dropped his socks in the hallway. So I chased him down the hallway to give RFK Jr. his dirty socks.
Wow.
You can say that, right?
Yeah, not many.
Yeah, so James interviewed Eric Schmidt from Google a few months ago, and Chelsea Handler was here. I mean, Jim Gaffigan was here a few weeks ago. So
that made big splash on which late night show was that? I'm blanking. Seth Meyers, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you want me to tell that story?
Yeah, do it.
So yeah, he came here about a month ago, and it was actually a graduation show for aspiring comics. So comics took a comedy class. They took 4 or 6 classes, and then this was their graduation show where they get to perform in front of their friends and family. So it was a packed house, and Jim Gaffigan was the headliner, and he hasn't been to the club in many years. I've been emailing him, and he says he lives downtown. He's too lazy to come all the way to the Upper West Side. But finally, he came, and the host called him up to the stage, and he tripped and fell on his face.
Wow.
Like I have video of it. He like flew across the stage. Has that happened to you, Leia?
No, but when I met my husband for the first time, by us it works like, first you spend 5 minutes talking to the guy, and then the father said, "And now my daughter," da, 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 and I walked down the steps and went
Oh my
flying
God.
down the steps.
Amazing.
Wow.
But he really like face planted. He was like on his back. It took him like a minute to get up. Everyone like was in shock. People didn't know if like he did it intentionally or if it was a legit fall. But he went into like 10 minutes of just amazing material just about him falling down. Like that's how genius he is. So when he finally got up and he went to the mic, first thing he said was like, so advice to all the comics in the audience, you're supposed to get on stage and command a certain authority, and that's not how you do it.
Wow.
It was just so funny. And then I emailed him some pictures the next morning of him on the floor. And then 2 days later, someone walked over to me in the club and they said, "Hey, like, congratulations on Seth Meyers." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, Jim was on Seth Meyers last night." And Seth showed him the picture, like held up the picture on air, asking Jim, like, what happened at Stand Up New York. And Jim told the story. Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, I remember seeing that episode of Seth Meyers because you posted it, and of course I watched it. So
yeah, it was really crazy. But with Podcast Row, I think it's something. I had the idea a few months ago, but it was really just something that's built up over the years, and I feel like it's a good like result of what we've been working on here between our podcast network and the club, where we created this one-day event where entrepreneurs can come and share their story on top podcasts. And besides getting the exposure on being on a bunch of podcasts in one day, we created this whole experience where there was invited media and there's a happy hour, and James Altucher gave us a talk and a Q&A during lunch. There was catered breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And people showed up at 8 a.m. They left 10 p.m. And it was just a wonderful experience. And it felt like a community. Everyone met for the first time that day. The entrepreneurs connected with each other. The podcasters connected with each other. I mean, besides creating great content for podcasts, everyone connected, and it was awesome. So we're planning on, again, we're doing another one July 29th. We'll do another one maybe in August, definitely September. But we're also bringing Podcast Row to conferences as well.
Wow, that's something I didn't even know about. What's that look like?
We're doing the first one October 3rd at Propelify. You met Aaron Price that day. So Aaron runs Propelify. It's an 8,000 person tech conference in Jersey City, and we'll be having a presence there. We'll probably be bringing in. It's in an outdoor park along the Hudson River, and we'll be bringing in a Winnebago and converting that into a podcast studio. And we'll be conducting interviews from that Winnebago all day and interviewing Propelify attendees.
Wow, that's really cool.
It's something different. It's not going to be like the same community feel as Podcast Row at Stand Up New York, but but we'll try to create something special.
Working and meeting with you guys over the last month and knowing the story behind Stand Up New York and how you guys got into it, one of the things that I think stands out the most to me is that you're not building a comedy club. You're not building just Podcast Row. Everything comes back to a place of community. Yeah. Why is community so important to you, and creating community instead of, you're not just creating businesses, you're creating a hub, a safe place, a place where people can engage, a place that they can be a part of the fabric of, whether it's podcasting or comedy or whatever that is. You are building a community, a sense of belonging there.
Yeah. So, it's crazy, but I didn't realize that until Podcast Row on June 3rd. That's when I knew we had something cool here, but I didn't until I saw it that day. everyone's reactions. Where I mean, a few of the attendees like were crying at the end of the night.
Oh,
like
wow.
like they just had a wonderful experience, and they were sad to like get on a plane and go home. Like they really connected emotionally to what we were doing. Really, after that day, I realized the potential of the community that we can have here. And I'm trying to apply that same mindset now to Stand Up New York and the other businesses that we have here. But I really didn't have that mindset before Podcast Row.
That's really cool. That I didn't realize that, because it always seemed that in your post and looking back over what you've done, that there was a strong sense of community there. And it's cool to hear how that is an area that you're evolving Stand Up New York because of Podcast Row.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, maybe it seemed like a community, but I really didn't feel like it was one. Stand Up New York, like after Podcast Row June 3rd, like I realized like we need to do a lot more, and try to just connect with people that come through these doors, which I wasn't conscious of before June 3rd. So I was talking to someone that I work with last week. Like, someone buys the tickets to Stand Up New York. How do we connect with them emotionally? How do we give them just a great experience? Like right when they hear about us and they buy a ticket and they come and they have a great show, and then they walk out just having a great experience. Same with the Laugh Pass. We really never drilled it down to like each person. Like when you're in this crazy comedy club business, like you really just, or at least most club owners, including myself over the past few years, it's like, how do we just fill the seats and get 2 drinks out of everyone?
Yeah.
Right, Leah? Like I feel like that's what's driving a lot of club owners, like just filling the seats, putting on good shows, but like, how do we get to a drink?
Can I share?
Yeah.
This was the first club that I ever came to growing up.
Where are you from? You sound like you're from New York.
Okay, so I'm from Borough Park, which is like a small niche community in Brooklyn, which is like a Hasidic part of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So when I was like rebellious and snuck out of my house to go to a comedy club, this is the comedy club we came to.
Wow.
Because it's a huge variety. And also personally, what I like is the quality of comedians here. I'm not, I'm not judging, but you know when people say they're not judging, but they're judging, but. And what I liked is it was clean comedy and it was quality humor. And I loved it. And I kept coming back. And the first stage that I ever got on as a, mainstream comedian was the Stand Up New York stage. How crazy is that?
That's crazy.
I was here and then I was a Comedy Cellar at night, like in one day. It was just a bizarre day. But when I got home at night, I was like,
how long ago was this?
6 months ago, literally.
Wow.
I was like, holy did I really just perform at Stand Up New York? Like, this is the club that I've been going to my whole life, like sneaking out to.
When was the first time you came here as a guest?
I was like maybe 20.
Wow.
So you're talking about 16 years ago,
Wow.
Something like that. And there was community here. You felt it. It's intimate. And like Dani said, there's so much more. There's the Laugh Pass, which we talked about. I love that. I love the concept of,
it's a surprise, but we're giving a Laugh Pass to every customer out there. Right?
No way.
Yeah.
Do I get one?
Yeah, of course. But we're having 120 people out there. We're announcing it. We're giving them
crazy.
All
what?
Wow.
The idea of a Laugh Pass to me, as someone who I love comedy and I love to watch it too, not just to perform, is bomb, because there's always new cool stuff on this Laugh Pass that I'm looking at. It's not just clubs. You do like events and parties, and could you imagine just having that pass and having those options? And it's never the same thing. It's not like, oh, I go to a club, I see a comedian at the end.
No.
There's always
We're adding, so originally it was just comedy shows, but we added all comedy experiences. So it could be free tickets to comedy movies. It could be tickets to daytime or late night talk shows like Fallon or Colbert or Seth Meyers. It could be free tickets to live podcasts. So anything comedy related, we're constantly getting bringing more experiences and shows onto the platform, and we're just giving it for free to our members.
Well, and I want to go a little bit further there. You're partnering with other people. You're broadening that sense of community. If we're coming back to that community place where Leah was just mentioning, the reason she keeps coming back to Stand Up New York is because there was community from day one when she visited. She felt that. And so LaughPass is extending that sense of community to other islands of humor throughout Manhattan and beyond.
Yeah, I mean it's a work. It's evolving. Like we're always evolving here. It's not like we went into this with like a huge business plan and like we raised money and like all right, we have this blueprint of how we're gonna operate. It was not like, it's just the opposite of that. Like I've gone into things with like zero plan and like we like just day to day we just tweak. So that community, I think it's evolving every day, and we're just trying. I mean, at least for myself, just trying to build better connections with people.
It starts on the top, like it starts with the performers, because I perform in other comedy clubs, and I do a lot of private events. There's something about coming here. There's a certain camaraderie, like from the second you walk in to the staff here, and then the comedians backstage. It's not like a green room in another comedy club. There's this chill family vibe. Oh, I know them from stand-up. Yeah, like we chill, we hang, Yeah,
I mean, we try, like, I don't allow any egos here.
Yeah. Which is probably something that you face with certain levels of comedians.
Yeah, I mean, Lay is the worst when it comes to, I'm kidding. Yeah, we don't allow egos here with like the staff, or sometimes bookers, like their head can get big. Like I try not to allow that to happen. Even comics, like, they got to be cool. They can't have a big ego. Like we just want to be around good people.
Leah, I want to kind of bring you back into this a little bit more. And you have been around comedy quite a bit, seen different clubs. What is it that makes a specific place just flourish? In your mind, as a comedian that visits these places, what makes like Stand Up New York so special to you?
It doesn't come across as commercial. It's very organic. Like Dani said, there wasn't a business plan. It just is evolving as comedy is evolving and as the entertainment world is evolving, and you feel it. You walk in, there's like always something different. They're just always doing even just private events. Tonight, how cool tonight is? Like there's just a huge sushi bar, an open bar, and it's like the tables are set up different than a comedy club where it's like a stage and chairs, and it's like round, and there's like this vibe, just a family vibe. It's chilling. I mean, my mother-in-law's here tonight.
All right, so I love that you are creating a safe place that people feel like they belong, that people come and they like, hey, I remember them, I saw them, and that kind of stuff. But you still have to provide the goods, which is in your case comedy. So what makes a good comedian?
That's a hard one to answer. I really I don't even know how to answer that.
Can I take a jab at that?
I want to have let me just cut in for 1 second, then I'll give Leah the mic. Regarding back to Podcast Row and the community that we're trying to build here, my goal is that it doesn't end with just attending the event.
Yeah.
Like they're part of the community here forever. So like when we have a future event here, like we want the Podcast Row community to come out. When I find out Seinfeld's coming in, like I want to text, people in the community, hey, I just got a heads up, Seinfeld's coming tonight, come by,
Yeah.
Like I'm looking forward, July 29th with the next event. Mike Love from the Beach Boys will be here. So I'm looking forward to reaching out to people that attended the last event just to invite them to come check it out. So it's always just adding value and just giving.
Yeah, and I felt like that's something that I'm not a stand-up comedian. I'm not funny and wish I was sometimes, but I'm not, and that's fine. But I felt like I was a part of the community that you're building there. I felt very welcomed. I felt like you valued all of us there, both the podcast hosts and the people that were coming as guests and the comedians that you had in that night. It just felt like you do a good job of honoring people. And I think Leah was talking a minute ago about how it starts at the top. And I think that that's so true in that you are the top of this organization that you're building, this stand-up and podcasting. And yet that sense of honor and value and caring for the people that you're around, that really shows. At least it did to me that day for Podcast Row in June.
That's nice to hear, but also to be around supportive people like you. I mean, we can't do it without you. I mean, you were supportive from day one when we talked about doing this event. So you've been a huge advocate and supporter of what we're doing. So props to you.
Oh, thanks. Coming back to you, Leah, what makes a good comedian?
Comedy is very subjective, I find. And by the way, that's another thing that I love about this place. There's something for everyone. Sometimes you go to a comedy club and there's the same style comedian, one after the other. Like by the time you're done, you're like, bar. Mm-hmm. I've heard it all. They've all been trained by the same guy. Their jokes are all so freaking the same. If I have one more Uber joke, you know what I mean? Or like, so I'm dating and so I'm single. Shut up. You know what I mean? Here, like, you really get like a mix. I've come here so many times with different friends and I'll go home in the car, and the way I'm in the car, a friend will be like, oh my God, I love this guy. And someone will be like, really? I like this comedian, you know? So there's something for everyone. There isn't a recipe for what makes a good comedian. What makes a good comedian is that they reach their goal. They make people laugh, you know, and different people laugh at different things. I think stand-up has, as we like to call it, a chillin'. It's a really nice blend of something for everyone. Some people like a more feminine energy, you know, a different demographic, and that's what's cool. There's always different nights and different events. You know what I'm saying? You keeping it spicy, bruh.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good at doing interesting stuff here. Yeah. I mean, and crazy stuff. Like last summer we had Roseanne Barr here.
Well, and I wanted to ask you about that because it seems in the last year you've brought a lot of people who have lately gotten themselves into some trouble. Roseanne Barr, Stormy Daniels, Jeremy Piven, he's gotten himself into some trouble. Do you guys have a little thing for the bad boy, the bad girl?
I guess we do. You know what? When you're in this environment of a comedy club and around a comedy podcast network, and you're surrounded by comics all day, I think you just have a very different worldview than regular people.
Yeah.
And I guess a more open view, you know, where you know we have a stage, we have our podcast studios, and you were totally open to people to come on and tell their side of the story. And also, like, I'm very for. I hate when someone like messes up in their career. They say something stupid where they're totally banned and shunned and from an industry. Which yeah. I don't think that's fair. So I guess if we can give someone that messed up a platform to speak, like, I'm all for that. Like Roseanne Barr, yes, she tweeted some crazy things, and it was wrong. But does that make her a bad stand-up comic?
Right.
Like, no, she's a great stand-up comic. Like, should she lose her whole career because of some stupid tweets? Like, I don't think she should. I'm not going to go to the Me Too stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really good question because we are so polarized right now, whether it's hyper politics, whether it's hyper political correctness. I think of, who was it? Michael Richards, who did a stand-up set, did some stupid stuff. It basically shut down his career. And for comics, you hear that over and again. They crossed a line that they shouldn't have crossed. But how do you know where the line is until you push to that level of saying, you know, this is funny, this is not. This is a place we can go, this is a place that's not. I mean, it's a hard line, especially with the world of comedy, because that is the DNA. You're pushing the limits to cause people to laugh.
Yeah, I mean, I just hate when like I'm on when I'm on Twitter, and I usually go on like early in the morning or like late at night, and I look at my Twitter feed and I just see like journalists and these Twitter pundits like all day just calling people out on things that they're doing wrong, whether it's a journalist calling out like a politician or an actor or a comic. I mean, they're digging up like with Kevin Hart a few months ago. They dug up a tweet from years ago, and he was dropped from hosting the Oscars. I mean, it's just a very bad time.
It's a very scary time.
Yeah, and I guess I sympathize for those people that feel shunned.
Like you had Stormy Daniels on, you know what I mean? And this is the difference between going into a comedy club. When you walk into a comedy club, expect jokes that are going to be offensive. I'm sorry. Most comedians made their, reputation on celebrating stereotypes. That's what's so funny. Don't come to a comedy club if you got to stick up your, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's one thing if it's on social media and you know what I mean? And I'm shoving it down your throat. That's one thing. You actually came out to laugh. Don't sit in the audience and be like, that's so offensive. Then stay home and watch The Notebook. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I guess maybe it's my way of like just rubbing it into people by having these names like Jeremy Piven, and we had Milo Yiannopoulos here and Ann Coulter, Stormy Daniels, Roseanne Barr. I mean, yeah, I think it's my way of just rubbing it into people. But they're also like people don't realize they're human beings, and it doesn't. Sending out a stupid tweet doesn't define everything in their life.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing is like people say stupid things sometimes, and they shouldn't be judged by one moment. They should be judged by a lifestyle of like, what are they living for? How are they living? And measured over a longer period of time. To pull out a tweet from from 10 years ago and use that against someone now is about agenda. It's about forcing people.
Yeah, and you have these people on Twitter that's just looking for a name for themselves.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're digging up 8-year-old tweets. It's like crazy. Everyone's so like sensitive. Everyone needs to chill and come to stand up New York.
Can I tell you something funny? Can I share something hysterical?
Yeah.
So on Facebook, I do a bunch of different personalities. Like I have a big social media, I mean, not big like Kevin Hart big, but for my little world. So I posted I have a Russian character that I do. And I said, these guys, they like hit on me all the time. Yeah. And like, I started to say like, I have a man, but they don't give a So now I say, I was a man. Okay. Now I think that's funny. And if anything, I'm making fun of people that are like, super like, oh my God, that was a man. You know what I mean? So somebody comes on my page and was like, that is super transphobic. And I was like, if you know me, I'm like a flaming gay. I'm the least transphobic person that I know. But in general, if you had something to tell me, why couldn't you tell to me privately? It's a point to make. Go on a public page where you have a platform, write on my platform, and let everybody know that I hurt you in the butt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, social media could be a stupid place sometimes.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword to say the least. There's a lot of good things, a lot of bad things. I want to pivot as we wrap up this segment, and you have a really good podcast, a great podcast called Dark Horse Sessions. I love it because it is interview kind of based, but you bring on 2 guests at a time. You have a conversation a lot like today's from the standpoint of just it goes all over the place. Talk to us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about Sessions. It started as Dark Horse Podcast, which is audio only. I interviewed a lot of founders of companies. I had some actors on. I had Dennis Quaid on.
You had Ben Cohen and Ben and Jerry's.
Ben Cohen.
Yeah,
I had Muggsy Bogues, former basketball player. But I started Sessions a few months ago when I had Adam Duritz from Counting Crows. He's a lead singer.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've been a huge fan of Counting Crows since like 8th grade. And I just realized we have this great space with, we have this podcast studio with 20 seats and we're on top of a bar. I can make it a much better experience than just audio. So when Adam Duritz came in, we brought in a camera crew and we brought in a 20-person audience and people were drinking. It was just like a 45-minute interview. There's also a comic around the table. Adam did a Q&A. And it was just a wonderful experience. So we're looking to recreate that and bring in more musicians and an audience and drinks. So that's how Dark Horse Sessions came about.
Super, super fun. We're going to take a break right here, and then we're going to do rapid fire questions. I hope you're enjoying today's show. If you are, make sure you check out our interview with Phil Rosenthal. He is the guy behind Everybody Loves Raymond and also the star of the Netflix show Somebody Feed Phil. You can find that in Season 2, Episode 48 of Season 2. Super fun. I would love to connect with you. One of the easiest ways to do it is head on over to jumblethink.com. You'll find a place where you can sign up for a newsletter, but more importantly, you'll find links to our social media channels like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Would love to be friends, love to do this journey of chasing ideas and dreams together. You can also drop me a note. You'll find a contact page there, or you can drop me an email, hello@jumblethink.com. That will get to me. Love to start that conversation and connect more with you. Now let's jump into rapid fire questions with today's guest, Dani Zoldan.
Placez votre électrophone à portée de votre main.
We are back with Dani Zoldan, possibly Leah Forrester. Who knows if she's there or not there? She might be there, might not be. So
she's getting into character.
Nice.
Ready to go downstairs to perform.
Well, we have rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
Yep.
As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh my God. I never thought about it.
What is one tip you'd give someone with a big idea or dream and they don't know where to start?
Write it down. Write down your idea. Write down as much as possible about the idea. So document it and try to hook up with some mentors, people that you admire. Reach out to them, ask them for advice, ask them for coffee. I would recommend that.
What's one big lie about entrepreneurship you want to break?
That's a good question. I guess, it's a double-edged sword. Like we do create our own schedule, and people think like we have time on our hands, but it's really 24/7, and it's very hard to have a balance, I find, when you're an entrepreneur. Like we always, even if we're sitting on a beach, like our head is elsewhere thinking about the business. It's not as glamorous as it looks.
What's one change you'd like to see in the world?
Less division. Everyone, not thinking about political parties and just talk to each other, solving like real world problems. They could be putting their time into something more practical and solving real world problems.
What do you want your legacy to be?
I guess a good, a good family man, a husband. I want to be a good father. I really want my work to speak for itself. So I want to bring joy to people and make people laugh and bring humor to people.
Where do you find inspiration?
Probably just being in New York City. I can't imagine a better place for that. Just being in this building, in this comedy club, and in our podcast studios. I'm being inspired by people around me like all day, whether it's comics or podcasters or interesting guests. Like they come to me, which is pretty awesome.
What is one book you think every dreamer or entrepreneur should read?
Oh my God. I like, it's not a book about entrepreneurship, but it's a book on mindfulness. It's John Kabat-Zinn. The name, I forgot the name of it though. Something wherever you go, here I am, or something. But he's a mindfulness expert, and I read that probably once a year.
We'll put that link in the episode notes so that I'll track down that book. We'll put it in there. If you want to check out what that book is, the link will be there.
Easy to find.
Yeah. How do you define success?
Just being aware that you're a work in progress, And if you're just mindful of that, you're just trying to improve every day. And like you're really aware, like every day, like, all right, I did something better today than yesterday. What am I going to accomplish tomorrow? Just having that sense of awareness, always improving. I think that's success.
What is one trend you're currently excited about?
I'm too in the weeds in my businesses to like think about anything else, to be honest with you.
What's one thing you wish you would have known when you first started out?
I'm too in the weeds of my businesses to think about that. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm like the list is too long. I can't even answer that. Everything.
If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what do you think you'd be doing?
I would love, I think I'm going to do it one day, but like producing like movies or TV.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I'd love to be attached to some film that I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So it could be like discovering a script and making it happen.
Yeah.
I couldn't be like a screenwriter or a director or anything like that, but just being attached to a project that inspires me, that's something that I could see myself doing.
And our final rapid fire question, what is one dream you're still wanting to fulfill in your own life?
I just said it. I'd love to produce a film or a good TV series. And I'll have to travel more.
Yeah. As we wrap up, we always like to leave our guests have a final thought. What's your final thought for us today?
That I appreciate you and your energy. And I enjoyed spending the day with you last month. And I look forward to you bringing that same energy to Podcast Row later this month.
Super cool. Dani, thanks so much for being on. We're excited about what you're creating. It's an honor to be a part of what you're creating with Podcast Row. Thanks for letting me come along for the ride, and thanks for being on the show.
All right, man. It was great chatting with you.
Once again, we want to thank today's guest, Dani Zoldan, for taking time out, being with us, and go check out what he's doing. You'll find all the links in the episode notes. Head on over to jumblethink.com. You'll also find links to Podcast Row there. You should come join us. I'd love to hear your story about entrepreneurship, how you're turning those dreams and ideas into reality, and the exciting things you are creating. We also want to thank our friends who sponsored today's show, Skillshare, amazing online courses. You get 2 months free for being our listener. Head on over to Skillshare.com/jumblethink. Skillshare.com/jumblethink. We also want to thank our friends over at Penji, unlimited graphic design at a low monthly rate. Head on over to Penji, PENJI.com. Use that code JUMBLE to get 15% off your first month. Now it's your turn to get out there and to dream big. You've got to make action. You've got to take the steps to turn those dreams and ideas into reality. So whether it's a big step or even just a very small step, choose to do something today to turn those dreams and ideas into reality. So get out there, dream big, and change the world around you.
Pour bien en comprendre le mécanisme. Pourtant, il n'est qu'un commencement. Nous avons voulu en faire connaître la force. Vous verrez comment un simple disque peut aller plus loin que vous ne l'auriez imaginé. Mettez-vous dans une tenue légère. Ôtez tout ce qui peut vous gêner ou tirer votre attention. Cherchez la meilleure position. Les bras et les jambes légèrement espacés. Étirez-vous doucement, mais complètement. En avant, en arrière, sur les côtés. Vous êtes une autre personne. Les mères de famille, les enfants peuvent également prendre un moment revitalisant. Dans quelques mois, lorsque vous aurez bien saisi la technique et que vous serez maître de votre corps, vous pourrez vous décontracter même en travaillant.